Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. It's August 2nd. We have a full slate of commissioners. We have the administrator and the clerk of the board. And at this time, I'll call the meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 12th and July 19th. Is there any additions, corrections?
No.
Okay. Move on down to office business, approval of vouchers.
We have one voucher today. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $370,558.57 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. With that, we'll move down to the approval of the consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda.
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 3 as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for the items 1 through 3 on the consent agenda. Discussion. Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I did have a quick comment, and that was just to note that Shelley Ajax is filling in for a juvenile defense position, as I read it, in B and C felony cases. This, Keith, runs just to the end of this year. Did I read that right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll move down to commissioner administrator updates. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. The Benton Franklin Mental Health Advisory Committee had their initial meeting last week. It went well. Just about all of the appointed members were in attendance. There were a couple hospital representatives. I think Lords and Trios are going through a management change right now, so I'm not quite sure where that's going to land just yet to perhaps nominate a replacement. But good discussion. We have gotten the first round of review and approval of the bylaws. There's some refinements that we're making to that, and we're sending those out. So the committee fortunately didn't get hung up on spending a lot of time on bylaws and administrative matters. So they got right into the substance of the discussion about what the community needs for substance use disorder and mental health issues and how we're going to address those. Still a lot of things to discuss, but they're off to a good start, and I think it's going to be a productive process. Also last week had another executive board meeting for Benton County Emergency Services. Nothing particularly new. They're proceeding forward on a number of different issues, making progress. The one area of concern that we continue to have is the shortage of 911 operators, call responders at the dispatch center. We have quite a few vacancies, and it's like every position, it's difficult to recruit people, and there's certain skill sets that are very hard to find for 911 operators. But so far, we're managing to get through with overtime and shift management, but we do have a number of openings at the dispatch center. Met with outside attorneys and our civil deputy and planning and building director to discuss progress toward our compliance with the Eastern Washington Growth Management Hearings Board relative to our comprehensive plan. We will be proposing some decision points here for the board, I think next week or maybe the following week, to consider for making sure that we have met our compliance requirements there. Met also with the city of Pasco to discuss a little further our progress towards an open dialogue about the renegotiation of the agreement that we have with them for operations at the Happel Center and how we operate and manage the baseball fields that are over there just south of the Happel Center, and all of that property, and some ideas about what we and the city can do jointly to create the best benefit for the community going forward. So that's still kind of early in the discussion, but just wanted the board to be aware that we're having that discussion. I think that's about it for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Peck?
Had the Wausau update call yesterday, as I imagine all of us did. Last week, Wednesday through Friday, had the Washington State County Road Administration Board meeting in Olympia. Normally, I don't get into much detail to brief about those state board activities, but I think today it's appropriate. It's worth noting that there are 4 counties of the 39 in Washington that own and operate ferry systems. Those counties are Whatcom, Pierce, Skagit, and Wahkiakum. And most people are not aware that the county receives gasoline tax money, just like the other 39 counties. What was not clear for a long time, at least to me, was that the legislature takes a chunk of money off the top of those gas taxes to purchase, repair, replace ferries and facilities in those 4 counties, which means that 35 counties are subsidizing 4 county ferry operators. And philosophically, whether a person agrees with that or not is not so much the point today, is that in that meeting, we approved and I supported financing a replacement ferry for Whatcom County. And this is the last of the 4 counties. The other 3 all received the same treatment with gas tax dollars. The cost is $10 million. It's $500,000 over 20 years. And when you break it all down, the cost to Franklin County is probably somewhere in the range of $5,000 to $10,000 a year. The difficulty in this particular vote was that we'd already created precedent by doing this. When I say we, my predecessors on the CRAB board over the last 30 years have provided this for the other 3 ferry counties. The trade-off, and what prompted me to support it, is that this will be the last time that this happens, and that the county ferry systems will no longer receive any of the gas tax dollars. And I thought that was probably a good trade. We could treat this county the same as we've treated the other 3, and then stop having these counties subsidize those ferry systems. The counter argument has always been that it's part of the state highway system, and that those other counties subsidize counties like ours. That's a debatable point, but that's probably enough on that. I just wanted to give you some insight as to the kinds of things the County Road Administration Board does and how it has the potential to directly impact our county as well as the other 38 in the state. That's it. Thanks.
Commissioner Mullen?
Had the Pasco Chamber meeting, talked about the crawfish boil that they had. It was a good success, and also attended the meeting of the Recovery Center Board. So that's it.
I attended the Ben Franklin Workforce Development Executive Meeting and their regular board meeting, Port of Pasco last week, and then Housing Authority. And in the Housing Authority, there was a situation where an occupant basically destroyed the building, the inside of it, kicked the door in, using drugs, and fentanyl was part of it. So it's got to be boarded up. Cost to the taxpayers to clean it up, get it ready for the next family. So it's pretty disturbing that trying to help people out, and that's what's happening. Got a lot of phone calls on the gravel roads out in the county. Potato harvest has begun. I talked to Craig Erdman this morning. There are some not just rough roads, they're dangerous roads. They'll shake you right off the road. We got to get those gravel roads cleaned up. And then the last thing is the irrigation is a fight right now for the farmers out there with moss. I talked to you about it this morning, Keith. The high intense heat just creates a moss that all the farmers are fighting at, trying to keep their water running because it just plugs up your filters and it's a mess. And with the environmental movement on treatment of water, it takes away our ability to combat the moss. So it makes it very difficult. That's the last thing I got to talk about. We'll move down to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. Is there anybody for public comment? Anybody on the phone, Keith?
No callers at this point.
Good morning, gentlemen. Would encourage you guys to give a little bit more detailed accounts, somewhat like Mr. Peck did this morning, in your weekly reports. The reason this came to light is I'm a pilot. General aviation is getting squeezed, has been getting squeezed for a long time, and it really came to light this weekend as I was coming back from out of town with my son, and I couldn't land at the Pasco airport because of a temporary flight restriction. And they've somewhat begun to change those, and so they treat general aviation differently than they treat commercial traffic. So I couldn't come in, so I had to go land at another airport, find my way home, and come back. And the purpose of a temporary flight restriction is to provide a safe buffer around an activity that is happening, such as a baseball or football game or something like that. They put those up, and good purpose behind it. But if safety is the issue at hand, then safety is the issue at hand. Then it needs to be fair and equal, and it just keeps moving a little bit at a time. And this is an example that I'm using, but there's many things that just keep moving a little tiny bit at a time, and that was an example. So if you guys are willing, the different boards that you sit on, you go to these meetings, when you make your reports, maybe get slightly more in depth so we have a little bit more knowledge of what it is that you're doing in your representation of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on down to early fill for deputy assessor position.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, John Rosenau is not available to be here. He's asked Vinnie to come in from the
Okay.
assessor's office to represent them on this issue. Vinnie, welcome. You might want to come to the
Right here in the mic.
the microphone there.
Tap it, make sure it's working. Yep, good. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the assessor office currently has an employee at level 14, step 7, retiring the first part of September 2022 and is on leave beginning August 1st of 2022. A position has been posted and an applicant selected, which the assessor would like to bring on in August, a few weeks early.
Okay.
Is there any overlap between the current employee and the person coming in? It read like there was a couple of weeks of vacation that the incumbent was going to be gone, so there wouldn't actually be any physical overlap. It would just be filling in while the current employee is on leave. Is that right?
So we're planning to start the new person on August 12th. So Carrie, who just retired, is on PTO at the moment.
Right.
And then up until her last day, which is officially September 2nd. So she will start, the new person will start
That
the
was
12th.
not quite as clear in
Okay.
the package.
Oh,
It-
okay.
To me, at least, it read like, we want to bring this person in now so we have somebody here while Carrie is on leave. But, so it
She's on
sounds
leave
like
already.
this is, when Carrie comes back from leave, this person will already have been there for about 10 days? And then
Yes,
she'll overlap for about, what, a month and a half?
no, because Carrie's last day is September 2nd.
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
Second,
So
so
only a
I'm-
couple of weeks of overlap?
Only a couple weeks.
Okay. Well, I think it's a good practice when you have it in your budget, and it sounds like you do. Capture as much of that historical knowledge as possible.
Any other questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I haven't seen a resolution, but I've moved to approve the request for early fill for the deputy assessor position as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second, for early position hiring for deputy assistant. And there's been a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Moves us down to administration office business. Keith?
Yeah, I don't have anything for action this morning, other than I will need an executive session that was not on the printed agenda.
Okay, thank you. Moves us down to the last public comment. Is there anybody on the phone or anybody that would like public comment? Seeing none, and there's nobody on the phone, we'll move into executive session. Mr. Johnson, would you please take us into executive session?
Yeah, we're going to need the prosecuting attorney and our outside counsel to participate in this.
Okay.
Sean, are you on the phone?
I am, and I'll come down to the meeting room. I just wanted to reach out. I told our outside counsel that it would be approximately 9:30. I'll see if he's available earlier. If we want to just take a brief recess for about 5, I'll make that contact and we could initiate the call.
Okay. I will request an executive session for 30 minutes under RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, subparagraph I, to discuss with legal counsel matters relating to agency enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation. Would ask the members of the board, myself, the clerk, the outside counsel, and the prosecuting attorney to be allowed to participate in that executive session.
So do we want to take a brief recess
Might be
then?
good for us to take 5 minutes to get him on the phone.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess. 9:16, we'll come back at, or actually it's 9:17, come back at Okay, we are back from recess into regular session. And Keith, if you'll take us into executive session, please.
Yes. I'm calling for an executive session for up to 30 minutes under RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, subparagraph I, to discuss with legal counsel matters relating to agency enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation. Ask for members of the board, myself and the clerk, and the prosecuting attorney and outside legal counsel be allowed to participate.
Okay, we've come out of executive session, and if, Mr. Johnson, would you please make the announcement?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, after having had discussion, there's been no decisions reached. The board has given the prosecuting attorney, myself, instruction to conclude negotiations on our responsibility regarding to the Pasco landfill cleanup. That agreement will be visited publicly next week at our Board of Commissioners meeting. And after that, we anticipate approval of a settlement agreement with the parties to make sure that we have protected county interests and are ready to move forward with the final cleanup.
All right. Well, thank you. And that concludes the agenda items on the meeting today. Is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.